All right, I'm going to go ahead and we'll get started here today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to our 60-minute webinar on short form video. And I want to say thank you to Dean for joining us today and presenting on this topic. SCORE is a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. We help clients at all stages of the business cycle, from pre-start to exit, through one-on-one mentoring and workshops just like this one. And we want to say thank you to MTI and thank you to Dean at Hero Media Network for making this workshop available to us today. And we look forward to responding to your questions. Please use the Q&A panel, and we will get to all of our questions by the end of the workshop. And thank you for joining us. Dean, go ahead.
Thanks, Dan. And it really is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And Dan makes a good point to getting to the questions, because I hear myself talk about this all the time. So I look forward to getting through the material and telling you what we know, what we've learned, what we're passionate about in helping small businesses embrace short form video to grow their business. But then I really look forward to the Q&A and hearing your pain points, your experience, to see if there's some practical suggestions that we can give you today that you can take away and implement this afternoon. Again, my name is Dean Gyorgy. I'm founder of Hero Media Network in the beautiful town of Wayne, Maine, just west of Augusta. I've had an agency for the last 10 years or so, I guess, working with small businesses to help them look good through their digital presence on the web, websites, graphic design, newsletters, that sort of thing. And we really have fully embraced this exciting new frontier of short form video. It's been around for a while. As you know, as consumers, you've seen a lot of it on your social media apps. And really sort of came of age, I think, during the pandemic and TikTok, and a lot of people were home on their phones. But over the last year or so, we really have seen small businesses transformed through the use of organic short form video, telling their story. And we'll unpack a lot of this, but this is not scripted. If you can't tell already, I went to a webinar yesterday and they were sort of reading from a teleprompter. Great material. But I just want to sort of convey my passion for this, and you're going to have to put up with some ums and ahs and rabbit holes and that sort of thing. What we'll cover is sort of the power of story. You are your business, and that really is an advantage that you have, that you uniquely have over corporate America, any big box, out of town competition. We really are passionate about the health of main streets, of local business, and just conveying who you are and why you do it is half the battle in what we're about to talk about. Certainly as consumers, we're flooded with video. Nobody really reads anymore. I think we're all sort of looking for the play button. We'll show you some statistics to sort of make that point pretty dramatically, I think. And then it sort of leads to, okay, well, how do I get started? What on earth do I talk about? What I do is not that interesting, is something that we hear from our clients a lot. And that's simply not true. And hopefully, we can encourage you to think about your business. And the pillars of content is the buzzword, and how you can convey your story in an authentic way. How to do it, tips and tricks. Really, the beauty of this is that you're already paying a monthly bill to the film studio you need. It's already in your pocket on your phone. And again, the final takeaway of all of this, I hope, is that, hey, what I do really is pretty cool and unique, and I am my own subject matter expert, and my customers want to relate to that in that way. Start with the power of story. This is a classic example that really drove home the power of TikTok in particular. Last fall into the holiday period. This is Talk About Joys, a classic sort of strip mall Mexican restaurant outside of Chicago, 2 tables, 3 parking spaces kind of place. It's a classic story that I learned from TikTok. She was an immigrant who married a Mexican man and started making the recipes of her mother-in-law, and somebody said, you should open a restaurant. And she did. And as they approached the holidays, things were slowing down. They were encountering some potential difficulty. And the daughter said, hey, let's do some TikToks. And they did. And this is the one on the left that really transformed their business. It's 8 seconds. Her face is not even in it. It's just sort of, where are the customers? Very heartfelt. And in 4 days, it achieved 35 million views and 66,000 comments. I mean, just blew up the classic viral video. And that viral video is not the goal, and we'll talk about that, but it's what's possible, particularly on TikTok and some of the others that you don't need an existing social media following to really reach a wide audience immediately. It's an interest graph. And so if the content is good and people like it and it's shared, it'll be shared by others. So the local media showed up, the food reviewers showed up, she got a national hit on Rachel Ray. And again, the comments really telling. I think some of the knock we've heard about social media traditionally is, yeah, all these followers and likes and are great, but are they really coming through my door? And the algorithms now, again, shifting towards not only interest, but location. And you scroll through some of these comments, it really literally was, wow, this place is right down the street. I didn't know it was there. I'll be right over, which really sort of illustrates the power of what we have here. Is there a local Maine example? Yes, there is. This is Cider's Woodcrafting in Brewer. He quit two jobs, was in law enforcement and was doing some retail management to follow his passion, right? This is the classic entrepreneurial story that these platforms and consumers want to support, right? People who are passionate about what they do. And he had a fire in his business, but he had started on TikTok, and this one in particular went viral, had something like 5 million views. He's doing a project at a friend's house. I talked to him last week in advance of this and told him what I was going to be doing in the audience that I would have. And I'll get into some of the details of his experience in a minute. But he said flat out as we started talking, if not for TikTok, I'd be out of business. Again, he had that fire, and some fans, virtual fans, TikTok fans, started a GoFundMe. This went viral. His website blew up. Again, really sort of changed the trajectory of his business. Just like a point I forgot to make, unscripted, Talk About Joys immediately started talking about a second location, right? Just the hockey stick went right up with that viral hit. This is organic content. This is not paid advertising. This is simply telling your story in an authentic, creative way, making that emotional connection. And you can't fake that. We see a lot of bigger brands, and you can tell they're calling their agencies of record saying, oh, hey, we need to embrace this TikTok trend or this social media trend, make us look authentic. And it doesn't quite work, which again is sort of a superpower for those that are invested in this medium and are willing to take the chance and launch in. Support for small business is very hot right now. Hopefully that you hear that from some of your customers. I think, again, the pandemic really drove home the importance of small business to our communities and, circulation of money and economic impact. I think, it's been on our minds for a long time in sort of the shifting economy, but suddenly there was a concerted effort to support small businesses, and it has remained hot. Again, I think consumers, we're tired of being sold to. We're tired of the politics and the noise and the celebrity culture, my opinion, and we want to embrace those stories of passion, of entrepreneurship, of authenticity. And again, that's a wind in your favor as you do this. And again, you have all the tools you need. You can make it as fancy as you want. You can become an audio or video enthusiast and load up on the tools, but it really is not necessary. Again, it's all in your phone. And it has to be on your phone because we are on our phones all the time. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of these statistics. If you're parents, this is particularly concerning to you, perhaps. Here's one from Rescue Time. We spend 3 hours and 15 minutes on our phone every day. And you hear that and go, how on earth do I do that? But as you think about sort of the way you interact with your phone, right? Oftentimes I'm checking my email before my feet hit the floor, I hate to admit. And then it's still, let's check the weather and let's check a news site and maybe skip over to social media just for a minute, So 3 hours and 15 minutes. How do we get there? We pick it up on average 58 times, right? Which is even more stunning than the total screen time, I think. 58 times. 70% of them are for less than 2 minutes. So it's a lot of these quick hits, these quick checks, right? We're sort of addicted. Pull it out of your pocket anytime you have time to kill. We all know this, but that's why short form video, less than a minute, as short as sort of 7 or 8 seconds on TikTok, is so effective because it sort of fits our attention spans. And the statistics there are others. These are 3 that we pulled out. Pretty telling, right? 52% of us who use the internet watch social media videos every day. 80% are more likely to purchase a brand that uses video, much more likely to share. It goes on and on and on. And intuitively, we know this, right? Again, we're just looking for the play button in our lives as consumers. Oh, sorry, touchy mouse. You would recognize these as social media icons, platforms. We really like to think of them as self-publishing platforms. Again, these are free to you to self-publish with a worldwide distribution, which just on its own is pretty mind-blowing to think about where we've come over the last few years. If you're sort of my age and remember the march of technology, this is available. What if 20 years ago it was like, here's a newspaper that everyone in the world can read and all the ads are free? You would be rushing to create something. And it doesn't have to be, flashy or salesy or overly, dramatic or compelling. It just needs to be real. That's the opportunity that's in front of us all. Each one of these platforms, if you're not particularly familiar, you will be if you become engaged with them. But TikTok, obviously the fastest growing. It's got that interest and location-based algorithm that I really find powerful. But Gen Z and others are turning increasingly toward this platform for search. I was talking to Dan as we got started. There was terrible flooding yesterday in Boston, and I saw one on my feed this morning, and then I went right up to the search button and I said flooding in Boston, and there were dozens of videos that people had posted, hashtagged and captioned, right? So the search engine knows what it is you're looking for. I could have done that with Google and gotten text articles that I may or may not have wanted to dive into. Oh, but you're going to show me a dramatic 30-second video of flooding in North Andover? Yeah, that's a useful tool. These are very enjoyable platforms to engage with. YouTube Shorts, this is YouTube. This is the granddaddy of all internet video, of course. It's about permanence. Once you upload something, it's always there. They've embraced Shorts, which is, again, 9:16 vertical video, much like TikTok and the others over the last year or so. But it's the second biggest search engine in the world. It's owned by Google. There are much more opportunities for longer form videos there. If you are a craftsman, you can do a longer sort of tutorial. So YouTube now has the option of longer form and short form, which work really interestingly together. Facebook, obviously, everybody has a Facebook account, if not an Instagram as well. 3 billion monthly active users. They are increasingly embracing short form video, and Instagram as well. They've gone through sort of an identity crisis recently as they've transitioned from what was a photo-based app primarily to short form video and Instagram Reels. But they are not going anywhere, obviously. And there are others: LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Lemon8 I have come across recently. All of them, and this is the amazing thing, are using the same piece of video. So you can do one vertical video, splash it across these multiple platforms, and really increase your chances of finding your audience. This is a fun little video. I'm sure the slides will be sent to you, or you can request them. Not a video, a graphic made by Wistia, which hosts video for businesses. And it just sort of says, all roads lead to social media. Do you think your customers enjoy social videos? Yes. Do you want to entertain, inform, and delight? Yes. Does your target audience use social media? Yes. And even the no tracks are just kind of funny, like watch some puppy videos and try again. Like, this is where the world is. And again, I think we all know that. And perhaps you're saying, yeah, I get it. I know it. I know I've been meaning to do that. And myself as a small business, I don't do as much social media video as I should to promote my business, and my business is social media video. It's hard. Social media or selfie video is difficult. What do I say? And I guess I would just remind you again that you are your subject matter expert. You know more about running your business, why you do what you do, than anybody. And again, that's what people are interested in. So start with biographical. What's it really like? What are your challenges? What are your joys? How did you get started? Oh, I own a pizza restaurant. Did you work in a restaurant as a kid? Well, no, it's my grandmother's recipe that, has just been passed down. Like, great. That's a whole pillar of content in itself, right? Tell people, make it relatable. All kinds of stuff to mine there. Make it educational. Again, the subject matter expert. What kind of tomatoes do you use for your sauce? How long do you let your dough rise? People, back to the woodworker. We'll talk about his content in a minute. People are into woodworking, right? They want to know what jigsaw bits he's using. Stuff like that, again, that you might think is sort of run-of-the-mill stuff, but people are really interested in. We had a client who ran a bike shop in Venice, California, Venice Beach. And she said it perfectly. She's like, oh, this is really helpful because I forget what I do is interesting around here because I just do it all the time. And I just thought that was so great. In the end, this is entertainment, right? Keep it simple and fun. There are trends you can hop on. You don't need to, but they're fun. That's conversational. Slow motion of tossing the pizza in the air, back to the pizza shop example. Anything quick and easy, sound and vision, right? It doesn't have to be long. It's just a way of getting it out there, and we're building a conversation here. Again, a viral hit like Talk About Joyce is great, but you can't predict it, clearly, certainly. And Dan will tell us about that, or Siders Woodworking will tell us about that in a minute. But it's about being consistent, about varying your content and being top of mind, episodic. We have been in video for small business for a while, and our format had always been, we're gonna tell your story in 2 minutes, and it's going to be this beautiful horizontal sort of cinematic piece, and it's going to be stuck on your homepage or your About Us page, and that's it. And it's great, and it's a nice legacy piece, and it's great for trade shows and that kind of thing. There's certainly a place for that approach, but it's not every day. And that's the opportunity we have with this, is to say, hey, we have a new employee, or we have an opening. We're looking to hire a new employee. This is the new employee. This is his story. You can almost make your business a reality show, keeping people abreast of what's going on. New product, new shipment, new menu item. And again, Siders Woodworking, textbook example, because as I came across him last week, again, in a search for Small Business Maine on TikTok, he popped up. He's doing exactly this. Biographical. He introduces us to his family, not just in the wood shop, but we see his first grader singing a song at the bus stop. We know about his family dog. That's his wife and kids helping out. It has nothing to do with his business, but again, creates that relationship, a rooting interest, right? He's likable. All of us are likable, right? When we just are ourselves. Educational. This gets back to the tactical nature of what he does every day. He's got a great woodworking following. Obviously, people are interested in what he does and how he does it. It's entertainment. It's light. The top one is a trend that you might have seen if you're on TikTok, and they pop up every couple of weeks, and people are using a funny piece of audio or video and layering it on top of their business. He puts on a funny hat and gets goofy. And he said, as I talked to him, he said, my account really took off when I got over that sort of, self-consciousness and just became myself. He said, I'm a bit of a goofball. And I just said, I'm just going to do it. And that's when his following really took off, right? I think that's what we long for, is authenticity. That's, again, if I could drive any point home, is just be yourself, because that's what people want. And that is the superpower for small businesses. And then finally, episodic. He does a lot of his business online. Well, I should say, the primary bulk of his business this time of year is at shows, right? Artists and craftsmen shows. So he'll say, hey, I'm going to be in Freeport this weekend. I'm going to be in Brunswick this weekend, leading up to that. And then here I am on Saturday morning at booth number whatever in the corner. It's an immediate feedback, right? It's quickly out on the platform. And if you're following, you'll see it. Oh, that's right. He said he was going to be at that show this week. Let's head on over. And outside of his summer season, he does more social media, and he says about 20% of his business online through his website, and about 98% of that comes through TikTok. So he's very aware of his hashtags, his comments, his target audience. I won't get into too much of that today, but he's watching his metrics, when his audience is engaging with his content. TikTok Live is kind of the old QVC approach, dating myself, but talking and selling a product at the same time is a coming wave. It's big overseas. And again, all the production is done on his phone. He records himself and then takes just a couple of minutes to produce very simple stuff. Okay, how do you do it? The bare minimum, it really is a phone, as we'd said, and and you can get into the specifics of the phone and the pixel resolutions and the stabilization, and this has 3 lenses versus 2 lenses. None of that really matters, as long as it's clear enough. We've done some really good stuff on an iPhone 7, I think it was, right? 1080p, high definition, which is any phone probably in the last 7 or 8 years, is great enough. It's about capturing footage, what we call B-roll. And that can be as simple as just pointing the camera like this goofball, like that's not me. It's hard to do. Turn your camera around and push the record button. It could be as simple as that, one shot. It could be a little more engaged with a variety of shots and editing, but you're simply capturing footage and then stringing it together. You can do that inside the app. Each one of these apps has an editing feature where you can pull a piece of content right from your camera roll and splice it up a little bit and upload it directly. Or if you want to get a little more creative or put the same content on multiple platforms, you could do it outside of that app in nonlinear editors. We'll talk a little bit about this. And you can upgrade your gear to your heart's content. Again, better cameras, lighting, wireless mics. You may find that you really like it, but you don't need to at all. That's the beauty of it. Let's get into visual approach, and that's, yep.
Just have one quick question here. I think it was relating to what you were just talking about.
Great.
Katrina asks, can you use old videos to load into TikTok?
You can. Yep. So when you hit the TikTok button, you can upload, you can record, or you can upload something that's already on your camera roll. Great point. Great. So frame design. They call it a frame for a reason, right? It's putting edges around something. And I think that we all really are more sophisticated viewers than we give ourselves credit for, because we just watch a lot of stuff, but it may not be at the conscious level. And I see a lot of people, and I've done it myself. You're excited about pointing your camera at something and you get this sort of tunnel vision. There, there's the puppy, there's the sunset, there's the whatever. And you look at it afterwards, like, oh, I could have gotten closer to that, right? So fill the frame, just be aware of the edges, to sort of take a half a step back in your consciousness to, actually physically look around the edges. Is there a telephone pole coming out of somebody's head? Is there something in here that really doesn't add to the beauty of the scene? Think picture frame. Simple approach, but can make, a big difference. Shot variety, you're telling a story in many cases. And again, doesn't have to be. Selfie video is great, and that's a great place to get started. But if you're telling the story of your business, you want to show an exterior, you want to show the dining room or the wood shop, give the viewer some context, right? The wide shot. This is where my building sits on the street. This is my front door, a medium shot. This is, my kitchen, whatever it might be. You're providing context visually and telling the story to your viewers. This is an independent jeweler outside of Houston, Sealy, Texas, that we worked with last summer. So clearly he works by himself, probably in a small shop. And these are the tools around him, right? The medium shop. Oh, I get a sense for what he's actually doing. And then the close-up, we use a lot of hands, a lot of eyes, really kind of conveys the emotion. Again, get as tight as you can, fill the frame. All of these devices have a minimum focusing distance. You may have played with it, right? Get as close as you can before it won't focus anymore. And then back off a little bit. That's a close-up. And again, I think, we all watch a lot of stuff and we recognize that. But I think it's just a slight adjustment to really sort of be conscious of what we are shooting. Camera movement. This is kind of, an old-timey graphic that I liked. You don't need to memorize all of these terms, but the idea is that the camera moves in one direction, right? To dolly is to move closer to something. You can also call it a zoom in many cases. Zoom often refers to the camera staying stationary and moving the lens, which you can do by pinching. Don't do that. It just, it introduces digital noise, right? Zoom with your feet is kind of an old photographer's term. moving slowly towards. Up and down, truck is left and right. Moving, actually moving your body. Again, panning. You could stand at your front door of your business and certainly pan across it, nice and smooth. And that's keeping the camera stationary. Tilting, rolling, you see, that's kind of an interesting approach too. I see a lot of that on TikToks, especially with quick cuts that you can do pretty easily in this software. So again, the point is move it in one direction. I see a lot of stuff where people, again, are excited about telling their story or showing their store, and they just sort of wave the camera all over the place. And that's very disorienting as the viewer. So as steady as you can, as smoothly as you can, even, so smooth that you can't notice it almost. That can be very subtle and effective as well. Stabilization, if there's one piece of gear that I would recommend you buy outside of the phone that's already in your pocket, it is a tripod, especially if you're going to be speaking to the camera or you want to illustrate a process, especially, a process that takes two hands, right? Just set it on a tripod. These are all about 25 bucks on Amazon or Best Buy or whatever. Some have ring lights in, which can certainly even out the light if you're going to be doing a lot of interview stuff or selfie, speaking to the camera. That one tripod in the middle I like. It's a gooseneck. If you're a mechanic, you're a bike mechanic, right? And you want to, again, fill the frame with whatever it is you're doing, rolling dough, you can position that so the camera is a little bit closer to the action than the apparatus might otherwise, allow, just straight up and down. You can get into gimbals, and all kinds of other, and certainly in camera, newer phones have a lot of built-in stabilization technologies. Any of that is fine, but just if you're hand holding, keep it steady, prop it up against something, or buy a tripod. Backlighting or lighting in general. Be aware of where the lighting source is. If you're shooting into the light, that's not to say it can't be creatively effective, but learn not to do that before you choose to do it, right? Make sure the light is behind you. Many of you might have stores, the storefront windows, which are a great light source. Here's that bike shop again in Venice Beach. You can see when the windows are behind us, the colors are more saturated. It's not too light, not too dark, contrast. Whereas if you're shooting towards the light source, it can sort of blow it out, right? The shadows are too dark, the light is too white. And, this is especially important when shooting, people, right? And we've all seen this. We've all done this. Again, I think we're more sophisticated visually than we recognize. And it's just that conscious thought, oh yeah, where is the light in this situation as I pick up my camera? And finally, I think this will be provided as part of this, but there's a guide you can download from our website, or will be provided here with just more tips and tricks about shooting techniques. I think if we again, selfie video is fine. Anything is better than nothing. But if you take a conscious approach, and I think you'll enjoy telling the story of your business, a little bit of educational material there. Okay, so you've shot all your clips, and now it's about putting it together, right? Post-production. As I mentioned, all of these apps you can edit within the app pretty dramatically, from stuff that you shoot, from stuff from your camera roll. It was just talked about. It's all there, and you can upload it and manipulate it. You can take a little piece of that and a little piece of this and put on graphics and add some music, all within your phone. CapCut is a great one that works well with TikTok, but you can also export it and upload it to the other platforms. YouTube, YouTube Shorts, you can edit in, but keep in mind the power of these platforms in that if I have one piece of content somewhere, I can upload it to many places at once. If I'm editing within the app, harder to do that. Although in TikTok, you can download it now without the watermark and stick it somewhere else. But if you do it outside of those proprietary editing suites inside those platforms, it's yours to distribute however you want, right? Upload it wherever, LinkedIn, on your website, it's yours. So CapCut I like. Captions is another great one. You've seen the bouncy captions, quick cuts. Again, don't get overwhelmed of, around trends or technical proficiency. The important thing is to just start talking. None of the, it's all about good content, right? Go back to talk about Joy's it was 8 seconds of her from behind, but her daughter said, you know, my mom's worked so hard or whatever. That was enough to get her millions of views. So all this bells and whistles stuff is great, but don't let it stop you from getting started. If you want to take it off your camera, and you know, working on the phone for old hands like mine is difficult sometimes, and I like the keyboard and a mouse, you can put it onto a web-based editing software. Kapwing is a new one that you can share if you've got, you know, a relative, an employee that wants to help you edit these. That's kind of like Google Docs for video that they promote themselves as. Canva is another one. And then stepping up another level to Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro. These really are professional tools you might have heard of or even played with, available on a subscription, a monthly subscription basis for a reasonable amount. Not necessary, but you know, again, as you expand your filmmaking, your creative approach, these really are sort of the top of the line tools that you can do a lot of fun stuff with. As you learn more about these platforms, you know, hashtags and captions are important. To what degree, frankly, they don't tell us, right? The algorithm is sort of a black box. So as you're scrolling on TikTok, you know, how important are hashtags? Frankly, you'll see some people that say, you need to use 7 of them, you need to post at 5 a.m. And then you get other people that say, none of that matters. And again, they don't tell us. All I can tell you for sure is they don't hurt, and good content wins the day, right? It's about making an emotional connection. And you will get better. It's just really is just about getting started and getting over any of that sort of initial trepidation of, I don't know what to say. I don't like myself on camera. What I do is not that interesting. My customers are not there on those platforms. I'm telling you, all of that, you know, should be overcome. And we can talk about them right here, because that's just not true. And it's just where the world is. So this is Wistia again, another platform that I think they surveyed 1,500 small businesses here and asked, why don't you do more? Well, I don't have the time. Well, you know, we don't have time to read a book. We don't have time to change our oil, you know, whatever it is, we make time, right? And Cider's Woodcutting will tell you, I film what I do and I spend a couple of minutes every day and just throw something up. So it really doesn't have to take that long. Yes, you can spend hours crafting a short film about your business, but you don't have to. Company size and resources, you can do this yourself, right? Cost, it's free. Technical capabilities, yeah, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think if you gave yourself an hour, you could get pretty proficient, right? We all know how to drive a car, and that wasn't a native skill, right? You guys can learn how to do stuff. Lack of story ideas or ideas, you know, take a look at yourself. Ask your friends, what do you like most about my business? Ask your best customers, why do you like coming here? Have a conversation with us. We'll fill you with ideas, right? I think it's very helpful for an outsider to see you, to witness you, to tell you what it is they find most engaging about what it is you do. That's your content right there. Buy-in from executives. I'm probably talking to a lot of entrepreneurs here. You don't need that. That's why we do what we do, so we can make our own decisions. So, you know, hopefully, we hear it a lot, and I know it's getting over that hump. And I know, believe me, I know that small business owners have a lot to do, and this is just one more thing. But I would argue that it is very important. And we really all are about spreading the gospel of this, if you will, teaching a man to fish. Like I get so excited about this, and this is why we've really dedicated, you know, a focus of our business is to short form videos, because I see it really is it's a great advantage for owner operator, Main Street, behind the counter type businesses. It levels the playing field. It takes a share of wallet away from the big corporations and the big box, whatever competition you feel. They can't do what you do, and they cannot do it authentically. And it's just a matter of getting started. That's what I have for you.
Thank you so much, Dean. And with that said, I actually had a question of my own here. Just if you're a small business and you haven't done a video before, you've talked about the different kinds of videos like educational, entertainment, story driven. What do you think is the first video that most businesses, like if you want to get started, just do this kind of video just to get your feet wet?
Yeah, great question. Number one, I think, is open up your accounts if you don't have them already, or just engage with these platforms. Hopefully this hasn't been too TikTok heavy, but I just find that platform so engaging. Get on these platforms, YouTube Shorts, see how it works, see the kind of content. If there's a piece of content that you like, see what kind of engagement it has. Find the pillars of content in your competition. Search, whatever it is you do. If you're a woodworker, if you're a pizza shop owner, search that thing in a particular place and you will see what other people are doing. So it's getting familiar with the kind of content that's out there, and then just sort of saying, oh, I could do that. I could give a tour of my place. I could talk about my favorite recipe. I could turn on the camera and say, I've owned this business for 20 years because my grandfather taught me how to do this thing. Whatever you feel most comfortable in doing, do that. And at the very least, cut the beginning and the end, or practice and do it in one take, and just push upload. That's the hardest thing, I know, is just posting and seeing what happens. And I would say, try to get out of your own way. Again, I'm sort of introverted by nature, and selfie video is hard, but people don't really care that much, right? and don't be so hard on yourself, and just start doing it. It'll get easier.
Yeah, and I think it also brings like a level of authenticity. Like you were saying, big businesses can't really do like a selfie video and have it feel authentic in the same way that a small business can.
Right. Even if you were to say, I'm really uncomfortable doing this, people would go, yeah, I get that, right on. That's that kind of intimacy, that authenticity that these platforms allow.
And we have a question here. Feel free to submit your questions to the Q&A panel, and we'll get them answered here today. We have a question from Teresa, and she asks, can you upload short films to MailChimp?
MailChimp. I do not believe that MailChimp serves video natively now. What we've done in the past is stick that on a landing page somewhere on a website and then insert a link. You can insert a thumbnail. I think you can insert a GIF now that'll move a little bit, but then you click through to have the video hosted somewhere else.
And just some kind words from Chris. This is wonderful information. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you for that feedback.
My pleasure. I really am passionate about this. Hopefully it comes through because, I grew up in Maine. I grew up in a small town. I moved away for a while and came back, as a lot of us do, and just really sort of had a newfound appreciation for the Wayne General Store, right? The small businesses that keep our communities going, and recognizing the tools that can really have an impact, and I'm trying to encourage you all to, to do that. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we have from Nick. Do you recommend shooting only in portrait mode or going landscape so that laptop/desktop users can also watch a video?
Yep.
Can phone viewers still just turn their phone sideways to watch 16:9?
Good question. We recommend going portrait now because that's where most people are consuming video. And that's one of the stats that I didn't put up there. I forget what it is, but it's a pretty dramatic at the percentage of video that's consumed on the internet in portrait mode, again, because it's sort of everywhere. If your end use case is YouTube, right, you're going to do longer form stuff. YouTube is still primarily a horizontal or landscape format. If you want to do a lot of stuff on your website, that's great. If you have a 4K camera, which many of your phones are, you can shoot landscape in 4K and then crop to portrait. But I think that there's a different way of seeing that I find really interesting. And in the guide, if you download it or it's delivered to you, talk about leading lines and the rule of thirds and frame composition. It's hard to see it both ways, right? It's sort of what's in the frame and what's out of the frame. And so I like to choose one or the other. It's possible. I mean, make another point. The beauty of these social media platforms is that clarity and technical proficiency is less important than authenticity. So if you shoot it in horizontal landscape and you want to crop it in and it looks a little pixelated, or the frame is a little bit off, doesn't really matter. It's not going to prevent it from finding an audience if it comes through as authentic, as making an emotional connection. And sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Can't phone viewers still just turn their phone sideways to watch 16:9?
Yep, thanks for that. And yes, and that's interesting. Again, before we sort of shifted to that vertical format, we were doing everything horizontal. And I thought, how hard would it be to just tell your TikTok viewers to turn your cameras? And I'm seeing a little bit more of that. TikTok has lengthened its maximum video to 10 minutes, which makes me think they want to kind of go after some of that YouTube business, especially with the search function. I've seen more people at the outset of a video, because we scroll like this, to go, oh, turn your phones. And I find myself doing that. So I would say possible, an emerging trend. And if your content really is sort of best suited to that format, then give it a try. See if you can bring your audience along.
And I think it really goes into what you were mentioning earlier with you want to make videos for the platforms, and these platforms are vertical platforms, at least short form video platforms.
Yeah, and I've seen like bigger agencies, again, sort of back to the bigger budgets, do stuff like long shot. There was I forget the brand, but they followed a cyclist through the streets of New York City, and it was a long video, and it was just shot for the vertical orientation, right, with the building sort of making the frame, and it was really compelling. And again, sort of that visual approach to try to construct something for that interesting frame. It's fascinating to me creatively.
Yeah, and from Lisa, she was asking about the guide, and if we'll share it, that will go out in the follow-up email. So thank you very much, Lisa. And that's a guide that Dean put together.
Yep. Hopefully there's more there, and certainly, do a Google search. There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of resources out there to help you get going.
So some kind words from Katrina and from Jen. Thank both of you for participating today. And from Teresa, can you do YouTube shorts only to start? Or was that something that you might recommend, Dean?
Sure. Again, YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Especially if you have a YouTube presence there already, or even if you don't, you can just jump into shorts. Download the app. It's really cool on the phone. I think that's an advantage, because you can search the classic YouTube, if you will, and then push the button for shorts and have sort of a TikTok experience, which is an advantage for them. So yeah, sure. And again, producing one piece of content, you could say, I'm going to go hard after YouTube shorts because of all the benefits I just mentioned. But now I have this piece of content. I'm going to stick it on my LinkedIn. I'm going to put it on, Instagram Reels. I'll just throw it on my Facebook page. And we find that the same piece of content will perform dramatically differently on various platforms, which is interesting. You may find an audience on one platform over another and just shift your attention that way.
And someone asks whether or not the Q&A will be included in the recording, and it will. So keep an eye out for that. And we have another anonymous question here. I assume there are YouTube videos or content somewhere that can help me navigate the how-to video aspect of TikTok and other social media apps. Instagram is even too frustrating for me at times, so I tend to avoid it altogether.
Yep. All kinds of stuff. Yes, just go to YouTube and how do I do TikTok? Go on TikTok and go up to the search function and ask the same thing. There's a great TikTok coach. Oh, her name escapes me, but she's a little bit older. I think she's in her 50s. She would tell you, and it's like, she sort of uses that, like, if I can learn it, you can learn it. I can teach anybody. Yes, there are a lot of great resources that'll really break it down and sort of demystify it. Again, we all, learned how to drive a car, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So it'll be an hour of discomfort, probably no more than that, when you go, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That's not that hard.
And we have a question down here that I wanted to bump up a little bit. I think it's a really good one from Dick. Do you recommend just posting when you can, or building up a backlog of regular content for posting?
I guess I would say it depends how you work. If you are working on a project, right, and I'm building this thing and it's going to take me a certain number of hours or days, and I only do it so often, capture a lot of that content, right, and chop it into various episodes and string it out over a week. If that works for you. Consistency really is the thing. You know, and some people on TikTok would say, oh, you need to be posting 3 times a day. Well, that can be overwhelming if you're just getting started. But when you get into it, it could be pretty as simple as just a quick, you know, selfie update. I wouldn't say there's any specific number. Again, it is all about the quality of the content that you produce. But I would say be as consistent as you can, whether that's multiple times a day, you know, twice a week, as often as you can and as consistently as you can. Again, because the algorithms will find your audience, and you want that audience to go, oh, I remember that guy. What's he up to now? Or, hey, he was talking about that thing last video I saw. Creating that conversation, just sort of keep that in mind. You know, and then if you get into, you know, lives, once you get 1,000 followers on TikTok, YouTube, you can go live. You know, that sort of immediate interaction is a very powerful tool once you get comfortable with it. But just keep in mind that you are trying to create a dialogue. You know, I think all of us as consumers have our favorite places that we go. Like there was a record store, the Record Connection in Waterville. If anybody's familiar with that, Bob was behind the counter for 40 years. Why did I go there? Because I like Bob and I got to know him just a little bit more every time I went, right? And that's what these videos can do. Even through the screen, you can get a sense for who somebody is and go, if ever I need that thing, I'm going to go to that guy to get it because he seems really likable. That's what we're after here.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. That familiarity, those 8 touch points between you and someone becoming a client. And we have a question that both Rachel and Chris are interested in. Is it best to go with a company account or a personal account when you're doing something like TikTok, Instagram, social media in general?
I think the general wisdom is personal to start. It gets you familiar with the platform. There's a little more flexibility if you want to engage in trending sounds, you know, meaning you can grab some popular music. TikTok has licensed a lot of familiar songs, Fleetwood Mac and stuff, right, that you can use. They're familiar. That's a hook in itself, right? But if you're a business, and they've licensed those, and so it's not copyright infringement. If you have a business account, basically you're telling the company, I'm selling stuff, and they don't let you do that. So you can always switch. Either one is free to set up. You can switch from one to the next. But if you're just getting started, I would recommend a personal account, even if it is for business. You can make a personal account and stick your business logo on it. It's still a personal account.
And related to account type on Instagram, is it better to go with a creator or business account? My business could go either way. This is from Hillary.
I'm not as familiar with that, but I would guess it's the similar argument. Go with a creator rather than a business. Business is just going to be more restrictive. Once you start generating content, I know it's got a more robust dashboard. You can get into the analytics a little bit. You could probably, you know, leverage, you know, some paid advertising a little bit easier. But if you really are just getting used to creating this organic content, getting familiar with the platforms, you know, starting to see the feedback, getting to know your audience, you know, start with a creator. Interesting point I just thought of, the Cider's woodworking. He is conscious of when he captions or hashtags, sort of speaking to his audience. Oh, this is a piece of content that this kind of audience will like. Like he talks about his router bits and his, you know, and his how-tos. He's like, I've got a lot of woodworking fans and I really enjoy engaging with them, but they're not necessarily buying my product. So I like to hashtag home decor or modern kitchen, right? And trying to get the algorithm to find that audience as well. And he'll balance that depending on the content that he's creating.
And just to touch on this from a different perspective, if your business is very personal brand heavy, then I would also really recommend starting with that personal account.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, even if it is a business account, my hope would be that you tell your personal story, right? And I guess it depends on the role you're in, the business you have. But I'm guessing anybody attending this, you know, SCORE webinar has the ability to really get personal and to tell their entrepreneurial journey. That's what it's all about.
And we have a question here from Jen. I'm a chronic overthinker. What is your guidance or suggestions to help me simplify a grandiose concept?
You know, without knowing what that concept is, we could help you unpack that a little bit. Just keep it simple. You know, keep it real, keep it authentic. This is, gee, this is my goal, follow along on my journey. Just try to not try to eat the whole elephant at once, just get comfortable talking about it, and beginning that conversation.
And we have one from Teresa here. Do you have any recommendations for microphones that would pick up the sound of something like a healing equipment, like a bronze singing bowl that she could connect to her phone?
Yes, there are. If it's an iPhone, I assume you need to get the right connector. Again, just Google it. It's a TTL, I think, and it's got an extra. You need a dongle, right? Thank you, Apple. We need a dongle for everything. But then there's a certain microphone cord that will go into there. It's corded. There are Bluetooth microphones that work really well. That old sort of mic'd up NFL films athlete kind of approach, which is cool. If you're shooting something from across the room, there are cheap, inexpensive Bluetooth microphones that will just clip to your lapel and then insert into your lightning connector for like $30, I think. And you can get a good wired microphone for not much more than that, maybe 50. And just, again, Google reviews. That's another exciting thing, is that the price of this technology is just coming way down, all these peripherals. And again, the most expensive piece you're paying on a monthly basis for already.
And from Edmund here, what editing program would you recommend for use on a computer? I'm guessing he's mentioning like a download, like an actual downloaded program rather than like a web program.
We are an Adobe Premiere shop. I really like the Adobe Creative Suite. Depending on how much creative work you do, it works seamlessly with all its other apps. Lightroom, if you're taking stills, Photoshop, After Effects, and there's a lot of plugins. Adobe seems to be a real player in that space. They are releasing a lot of crazy AI tools, which is something we really haven't talked about. There's a lot of, and it's something that we use a lot in our business, AI assisted editing, upscaling of video, cleaning up of audio. Every day there are more really exciting AI tools that is making this more and more possible. And Adobe is a big player in that. And so if that's the kind of Kapwing I like a lot, it's also web-based and you can share it easily. It's a little clunky, a little sledgehammery. If Adobe Premiere is a scalpel, this one is a bit of a hammer. But it's got all kinds of built-in stock footage and sounds and animations and lots of kind of bells and whistles stuff that you can just drag right to the timeline. And I found it really fun to use.
From Anna here, immensely helpful webinar. Thank you, Dean. And it looks like she's also set up a time to talk to you a little bit later about her video strategy.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yeah, it really is my pleasure to be with you all today. Thank you. And I will say, as a consumer, I really look forward to starting to see your content. I mean, I won't know who that is actually, but as I really thought about, why are we doing this? Because that's the content that I really enjoy, right? Small town businesses that are passionate about what they do, connecting on an emotional way. So I'm really, from the bottom of my heart, encouraging you all to do it because it's so effective.
Completely agree. There's not enough local small business content out there, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Especially in Maine.
Right. Absolutely. Especially in Maine. And again, so many of these comments are, I didn't even know that was here. Like, I live on the lake, right? And down at the other end, there's a wind sailing guy. Nobody knows he's here. If he had a social media account, right, I think you'd get a little more business. So it's just a matter of getting over some of that trepidation and and the excuses not to get started.
Now, our last question here from Nick, I think is a pretty good one. Nick does has a YouTube channel, does Facebook videos and Insta Reels, but they're a little wary of TikTok due to national security concerns. They don't want to invest a ton of time and energy into a platform that might not have longevity and sustainability. And he sees this going on with Twitter or X now as well. Do you have any thoughts on the sustainability of these platforms?
Yes, and this is perhaps a controversial subject, and we could talk about it, as in depth as you'd like, or offline as you'd like. I think that this is my personal opinion is the TikTok algorithm is so effective, and that some of the Meta, Facebook, Instagram, really saw this as a threat, and that there's some political lobbying going on there. I think all of them have privacy concerns, to be honest, but we've seen, Google and Facebook all sort of run into the regulators. It's a concern for all of us what they're doing with our data, but I don't believe that TikTok is inherently any worse, and I also don't believe that it's going anywhere anytime soon.
I completely agree with you on that one. And that's all the time that we'll have today. If you have any more questions, I will include Dean's information in the follow-up email, as well as the handout that he has prepared, which I will say is incredibly informative. If you're looking to do some short form videos, print that out and have it with you just while you're recording. I think it's a really great guide. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And a big thank you again to Dean for presenting for us.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everybody. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.